screen will kind of come down right about here. We'll hear a message, probably from our senior pastor, David, or from one of our other pastors in the teaching team. But today I am blessed with the opportunity to get to share with you some of my heart for the Harrisburg community, and I'm excited to do it, but admittedly, a bit new. It's a little bit new for you, it's definitely new for me. So love to ask for just a bit of grace as we go through what is kind of a new experience today for me. So excited to talk to you guys about a couple of things that pertain specifically to Harrisburg. All the other campuses are live as well, and they're talking about things that pertain to their communities in here, and that's why David's given us this opportunity just to share a little bit about our hearts for the Harrisburg area. But before we get into that, I just want to celebrate what we all did out there in the atrium. It's unbelievable. Almost $100. Yeah. So many of you put many hours into doing that. It's just an exciting thing. I gotta believe that somebody that we know has to want to see what we've built here. And like I said earlier, somebody drove onto the property and was like, what is that thing? And it's this thing. But we got people that want to see this. As a Harrisburg campus, as a family, we've been praying for 1,000 people to be introduced to Jesus through LCBC Harrisburg over the month of July. It's a crazy goal. It's an audacious goal, but we've got a God that's really big and is capable of doing infinitely more than we can ever hope or imagine. And today we're going to talk about that idea in general. We're also going to talk about what it looks like when one person has an encounter with Jesus that changes their life. So many of us have had an encounter with Jesus that's changed the course of our lives for the rest of our lives. And when I look at a number like 1,000, I think, it's really not about the number. It's so not about the number, in fact, that it's really about the individual lives that make up that number. Number's a great thing. Number's a fun goal to run at, but to me, it's worth doing everything that we did this last week, and we will finish this week, if one person were to come to know Jesus and have this encounter with Jesus that changes their life in an amazing way. And the question is, how do we get good at making those introductions? The question is, how do we get good at even noticing who's out there that's trying to see Jesus or trying to get a look at Jesus? And how do we respond when we actually see that in Jesus and we see that in other people? So we're actually going to open up our Bibles. We're going to open up our Bibles to Luke in chapter 19. There's Bibles under the seats right in front of you, so why don't you go ahead and grab one of those. It's on page 801. Why don't you go ahead and turn there? Cool, we'll turn that page here. I'm going to start reading in verse 1. And as we read through this, I just want you to look at who you can identify with in the story here. There's two primary characters in the story. One is Jesus, and one is this man named Zacchaeus. Let's learn a little bit about Zacchaeus here. Chapter 19, verse 1. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus, and he was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. All right, time out. So we know a couple things about Zacchaeus right out of the gate. We learned first that he's the chief tax collector in the region and had become very rich. Why are those things significant? They are significant. Let me tell you why. So the fact that he was a tax collector in Jesus' time means that he was just hated by his own people. Now, you got to know that none of us love paying our taxes today. Not like I'm like, hey, I have to write a check for taxes. None of us have been really thrilled with that idea in life, but they truly hated tax collectors back then. And the Israelites hated them specifically because they worked for the Roman Empire. Now, the Roman Empire had taken over Israel about 100 years prior to this event, okay? So, Zacchaeus works for the Roman Empire. It'd be a little bit like, it's a stretch, but it's a little bit like if Canada were to take over the United States. So, put your imagination hat on for just a second. Okay, it's the best illustration I got. So, Canada takes over the U.S., and they're now hiring American tax collectors to collect taxes for Canada. It's a ridiculous thought, but that's about what it would feel like for us, where I got Americans coming to my door and saying, hey, you need taxes for Canada, pay your taxes for Canada, and you're not really seeing much benefit from that. So you can imagine that Zacchaeus wasn't liked simply for that reason alone. But it got worse. See, Zacchaeus was very rich. And the only way that Zacchaeus could have gotten very rich is by taking taxes that weren't explicitly owed. So he'd come up and be like, you owe $1,000. And he'd have to pay him because he had a bunch of Roman soldiers with him. And that made Zacchaeus just a hated person. And it's important to know how hated Zacchaeus was for the rest of the story. See, at this point, I believe that Zacchaeus, as we're going to see in a second here, he probably knew something about Jesus. At this point in Jesus' ministry, he'd been going on for about 3 years now, and he probably had become famous. And Zacchaeus had likely gotten to know Jesus a little bit throughout this time. So watch how Zacchaeus responds when Jesus shows up in town. We're going to pick it up in verse 3 here. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass by that way. I love what it says. He tried to get a look at Jesus. So, when you're trying to get a look at something, you're probably not necessarily trying to interact with them. I think of myself in the story here, and I imagine Jesus had this crowd around him, and he's walking through, and Zacchaeus is just trying to get through this crowd, but they hate him, so there's zero chance to letting him through onto the front line of the parade. There's no way they're going to actually let Zacchaeus through, so his only option is to run down the road, far ahead of the crowd, and climb up a tree. Now, it's a desperate play at best, right? You got to picture this in your head. Zacchaeus is this rich guy, so he's probably wearing Armani robes or whatever was cool at the time, and he's running up this tree. He's probably getting all scratched up as he goes up there, just to get a look at Jesus. Now, up in a tree, he has no hope of actually interacting with Jesus. All he can do is see him, but he's heard enough about him and said, I don't know, that's interesting. I just want to take a look at Jesus. I think Zacchaeus is where I begin to relate to him in the story. I believe that Zacchaeus has tried a lot of things in his life. He's tried power, he's tried wealth, he's tried a lot of things, and it's not working out for Zacchaeus. He's still hated, he's still not liked. And I think I look around that and I say, who around us is trying to get a look at Jesus? Who is related to Zacchaeus in this way? I think there are really two camps when it comes to Zacchaeus. I think there's two camps of people that are trying to get a look at Jesus. The first is a camp of people, maybe 20% of our population, that say, I want to get a look at Jesus, but only to disprove what he has to say about life. And I don't want to ignore that. But everybody else, in that 80%, a recent Pew Research study said that while most Americans are not necessarily Christian, most are still spiritual. About 60 to 80% are still spiritual and seeking. They're looking at, just like Zacchaeus, they're looking at it and they're saying, man, what I'm trying in life, it's just not working. I've tried sex, I've tried power, I've tried money, I've tried all these different ways of life, and it's just not working out around me. And so maybe they're going to turn towards Jesus. So who around us is that way? Who around us has tried everything that life's had to offer? Who around us has tried all those different ways? Is it somebody in our family? Is it our friends? Maybe somebody in our neighborhood? Maybe somebody at school is trying to get a look at Jesus. I think all of us have that opportunity. The thing is, they're trying to get a look at Jesus through us, because Jesus is not walking around here anymore. The only way they're going to see Jesus is by the way we act and the way that we're around them. But they're trying to get a look. And so I asked the question, who around us is trying to get a look in a very general sense? So we started to look at population around the Harrisburg campus, sort of using Harrisburg as an anchor point and saying, who around us is trying to get a look at Jesus? We did this population study. So it's population by drive time around the Harrisburg campus. So we started with 5 minutes. Said who around us? About 10,000 people. About 10,000 people live within 5 minutes of Harrisburg. And you might think, oh, that's a good number. We got about 1,300 people on average, just a little less than that, that attend Harrisburg on an average week. So we're doing pretty good when it comes to that. But if you think about it, most of us have driven more than 5 minutes to be here. And if not, about half of us would have to live together in the Bass Pro Shop. And as much as I'd love to come along with the grizzly bear, I don't think that'd be great. We move on to 10 minutes. We've got about 98,000 people. Starts to get kind of interesting at the 10-minute mark as you start to tap into the city population. But what's going to blow your mind, it blew my mind, is the 20-minute mark. Look at this. 327,000, almost 328,000 people that live within a 20-minute drive of Harrisburg. And that 20-minute drive is significant. It's significant because most people, on average, won't drive more than 20 minutes to come to church. So I look at this and I say, that's really our sphere of influence, right? That's our sphere of influence in our communities. This 327,000 people, these are the people that are potentially trying to get a look at Jesus. There are people in our families, there are people in our communities, and the people that we walk through and around every single day that are sitting up in that tree trying to get a look at Jesus through our lives. I think Jesus was keenly aware of this. I think he knew that people were trying to get a look at him. So I think the way that he postured himself as a result of that is really important. Let's look at how he does this in verse 5 here. So when Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus. First thing that Jesus did, take a little break. First thing that Jesus did, he noticed Zacchaeus. And that's significant. It doesn't look significant. It's easy to pass by that if you're not thinking about it. But it's significant because imagine Jesus in this crowd. There are people walking through the whole time. And he'd be easy to be distracted. It'd be easy to put your eyes down on the ground and walk through the crowd to your destination, not noticing anything around us. Because it's not enough to simply notice something. You have to be aware. You can't just be noticing something. It's not a passive thing. We have to actively notice. We have to be intentional with the way that we notice. And God actually taught me a story about this just the other day. Taught me a lesson about this just the other day. So I was out mowing my lawn, and I noticed that my neighbor's lawn was getting hot. And I said, oh, I don't want to do mowing lawn. And then I felt immediately convicted about that. And I said, oh, that's right. He and his wife just had a baby girl like 2 weeks ago. He's probably just behind. He's probably operating on 40 seconds of sleep. And so I said, what would it look like if I were to mow his lawn? I got all excited about that. And before you think I'm going to tell you a story that makes me look all self-righteous, watch how I start to screw it up. Okay? Okay. So I'm about to mow the lawn. And I go out there, I'm mowing his front yard. I got energy and focus. I'm thinking, this is going to save his life. He's going to be amazing. I'm doing such an awesome thing. And then I get to the side yard. I got all this energy and focus. I'm still real excited about it. Then I get to the backyard. And you got to know that our backyards are connected. So I said, well, no reason to be inefficient. I can just mow both at the same time. And so I'll just go back and forth across both of these yards. And I start doing that. And I get to my playset, and I mow around the playset. But at this point, I am squarely in the mow zone. You know what the mow zone is? It's that thing where you're just singularly focused on mowing the lawn. Nothing else around you exists except you, the mower, and grass. That's the only thing around you. And I think there's something weird about the mow zone where time passes differently in the mow zone. Like minutes become seconds, hours become minutes, and time just passes differently in the mow zone. And I'm tearing up grass like a boss, going through this thing, totally focused on what I'm doing. I'm like, yes, grass. And I get to this place, and I look up a few minutes later, only to notice that I had stopped mowing my neighbor's lawn. I had automatically begun turning around where I normally do to mow my own lawn. And I was like, ooh, man. And that's what I thought about. I was like, man, we have to maintain focus on who we notice. We have to be intentional with noticing. It is not a passive thing that we can just do. We have to be active about it. We have to be active about how we notice. So we have to be, we can't just get into this mow zone with our lives too. It's easy for us to just go through our, put our head down, do our job, go to the grocery store, go Starbucks. Every one of those opportunities is an opportunity to notice somebody. But not if we have our head down and we're locked into our little world, into our zone. We have to actively notice, because if we don't pull ourselves up from that, we're going to miss the opportunity to see someone in the tree who's trying to get a look at Jesus, and we're just going to keep turning the mower around at the edge of our yard, where we automatically do. I think Jesus knew that, but I think he also knew that it's not enough to simply notice somebody. We've all done things in life where we've noticed something and said, like, man, that's a shame, or I don't know, like, I can't do anything about that. It's not enough to simply notice. We have to do something about that. And watch what Jesus does. We're going to start with verse 5. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down, I must be a guest in your home today. All right, so I picture Jesus walking through this crowd, and he's got focus, and somewhere these people are yelling, Jesus, heal me, Jesus, Rabbi, teach us something, or heal my kids. He's got to be distracted. There's a lot of noise in this crowd as he's walking through town, and all of a sudden he just stops. He looks up in this tree, and he's like, hey, Zacchaeus, come down quickly, I must be a guest in your home today. I don't know why, but every time I do that, Jesus sounds like Mr. T. I pity the fool who won't come down the tree. I don't know what it's about. Yeah. So, the important part is that Jesus did something more than notice. Called out. He took action. He said, hey, Zacchaeus, I see you. That's what we need to do too. We've got to do that too. We've got to say, I see you. Why don't you come to coffee? I see you. Why don't you come to church with me? Hey, why don't you join us for dinner today? That's taking noticing to an active level. It's an important thing for us to take noticing to call it. I think we've been called to call it to others. Because as rescue people, we rescue people. That's our job, is to notice and to call out. Guys, I gotta believe. I've gotta believe that we know 1,000 Zacchaeuses in that 327,000 people that surround our campus. We gotta know 1,000 people who are just trying to get a look at Jesus. And the thing was, I noticed something else about Jesus, is that he invited himself into Zacchaeus' life. He wasn't waiting for Zacchaeus to say, can you want to come over for dinner? He wasn't waiting. He took an active stance. He said, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to invite myself into your life. That's what we got to do too. That's what we got to do too. And look at how Zacchaeus responds. Okay, so we pick it up here in verse 6. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus into his house in great excitement and joy. Great excitement and joy. Because somebody noticed him, called out. It's a big deal. I mean, not everybody is going to respond to that with great excitement and joy, but most people will. When you genuinely ask to be part of someone's life, they're going to respond. Almost always positively, many times with great excitement and joy. That's what we got to do. Invite ourselves into somebody's life. But I'll be honest, it's harder to do than it is to say. I am wretched at inviting people to this church. And I know it's shameful for me to be able to stand up here and say that, but I'm bad at doing it. I'm bad at doing it. Maybe you have a hard time doing it as well. But there's two reasons why. One, it's hard to invite yourself into someone's life. And two, I'm afraid of what people might think. What some folks around me might think. Watch what the crowd did to Jesus as he accepted this invitation, as he invited himself into Zacchaeus' life. It says here in verse 7, but the people were displeased. He's gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. They're like, what? You're going to go to dinner with Zacchaeus? Oh man, they grumbled about it. They were displeased by that. It's such a shame. Because I see people like Zacchaeus, people that have tried life in different ways that are worth it. We're going to get pressure back on us from the people that are around us and say, oh no. You may hear things like, why do you bother with him? He's such a jerk. He's never going to change. Or, her life is so full of drama and depression. If you talk to her, if you get involved in that, she'll just drag you into a mess. Or maybe all he does is drink and want to hook up with girls. If you're around him, people are going to think it's all you want too. They even think, what? Why are you friends with her on Facebook? She's such a loser. Only losers are friends with her on Facebook. You ever hear those things said about you? I've heard those things said about me. When I came to LCBC 9 years ago, my life was a mess. My marriage hanging on by a thread, not doing life well at all. Not at all. My life was just a mess. It's a mess. But guys, messy people, just worth it. Just worth it. And my only regret is that no one had noticed or called out to me before that and left me live life that way. And nearly killed me. Nearly killed me. Who's out there right now that we know in our lives is hanging on by a thread, but still willing to look up in the tree and say, I'm willing to try that if you're someone right now. So people ask me what to do when I do work. I say, I work at LCBC, and they're always like, what's that? And I say, man, that is just a shame. It's such an unfortunate thing that of the 327,000 people around us, most people don't know what LCBC is. And it's not so much about us as a church, it's just they don't know that they could be introduced to Jesus. They don't know that their lives could be changed. So we've got to fix that. It's just not okay that people don't know that this exists. So here's what we got to do. We got to dig deep into the community around us. We have to expand our partnerships with our Be Rich organizations that we've started with last year. We have to make LCBC in the name of Jesus known in our community, because anything else is unacceptable. Anything else is unacceptable. We have to ask to be involved in our community. We can invite ourselves into people's lives. We've begun some conversations here at Harrisburg that's going to take us in a direction that maybe is a little atypical for us. We've talked about how do we leverage our life groups to get better out in our communities, to get further and deeper out into our communities. How do we do a better job caring for the people not only in this building, but all the people around us? We started those conversations. If you want to be part of those conversations, come tell us. Come tell me. I'd love to invite you in to that conversation because there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake. There's lives at stake. It's real. It's a real deal. Guys, that's what this is about. This candy box here. This is a box of Lifesavers, and I find that just a tiny bit ironic because this box of candy might actually save someone's life. It might actually save someone's life if we're willing to say, I see you. Why don't you come out here? I see you. Why don't you come to church with me? It's an invitation for life change. It's significant. It's an invitation for one life at a time. It's why we do any of this stuff for activities. It's not because we love Star Wars, but it's not just because we do that. It's because we want people to come who would never come before, who might now consider Jesus to change their life. One life at a time. It's not about the number. It's about one life being changed. Guys, we need to engage our community more deeply. And I think one of the tools we have at our disposal is expanding the campuses that we have. Now, we've done a little bit of a population study on campuses. It says, where are people coming from right now? All right, so this is a giant map of all the people that come, all the households that come to Harrisburg from the region. And you see most of them are kind of clustered around here, and we got this one like super far out here. That guy is our student ministry pastor, Jason. I don't know why he's so far out, but he's cool. So yeah, so he drives a long way to get in here. But if you zoom in a little bit, we look at each of these dots, and it actually gets a little bit more interesting. So there we go. So you can see that we got a lot of people obviously clustered around our campus, and then we've got the dreaded river that nobody can cross from the west end. I don't know why that is. That shouldn't be funny, but it is. And then we got a bunch of people here on the West Shore. Actually got about 250 households coming from the West Shore right now, give or take a little bit. And then we see this sort of smattering of folks in the Upper Dauphin area, and that's kind of an interesting thing too. So here's some thoughts on some next campuses for us. I don't think many of these will come as a surprise. So West Shore, man, I'm hopeful that we can move to the West Shore. I think we've got a lot of people here as we continue to invite people from the West Shore. We're getting all that closer there. But one they've got room for God to do something that maybe we didn't expect. So that's why this Harrisburg City campus is on here. And that's kind of a crazy idea. Harrisburg City, there's no churches like us down there right now. And there's got to be lost people that are trying to get a look at Jesus and just want to be open to what God wants to do. And then we've got this new idea of partnership churches. Started a new partnership church with Hill City, and maybe we got about 50 or so families coming from the Upper Dauphin area. Maybe one of them will start as a partner church, maybe as a small campus. I don't know. We want to leave this idea open for God because, bottom line, if we're going to reach lost people, then we need to expand our reach both into our community. Most importantly, we need to expand our reach into each other's lives, somebody's life. Guys, so here's my request of us. We should pray about this. I ask that you just spend time praying over the next couple of months about what God's direction is for us here. Maybe you'll get back, just be involved in somebody's life. Maybe there's a name. Maybe he'll give you direction on one of these things. Maybe there's somebody here who knows of a great church that may want to partner with us up there. I just ask that you pray alongside of us with that, but this is just one of many devices that we have to reach people. It's not about campuses. It's about lives changed. It all starts with one life at a time. Just one encounter with Jesus change your life forever. So how does the story of Zacchaeus end? Pick it up here in verse 8. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. One encounter with Jesus. One encounter with Jesus. It would have never happened if Jesus hadn't noticed, called out. From hated tax collector to community benefactor, That's the kind of transformation that's possible with Jesus Christ. So I remember my first time coming to LCBC. It was a baptism weekend up at Manheim many, many years ago. And I heard story after story after story of lives that had been changed in many ways. People that had handed over huge things to God: anxiety, suicidal thoughts, depression, criminal activity, sexual addiction, you name it. People handed over huge things to God. And that moved me. It moved me to consider God for really the first time in all seriousness. But now looking back on it, I noticed something else. I noticed in most of those cases, there was someone standing next to that person in the pool. Someone who was there to support them. Someone that a long time ago had noticed them and called out and said, come to dinner. Come to church. Have coffee. Encounter Jesus in a way, and as a result of them doing that, change someone's life for eternity. Wouldn't it be cool if all of us could stand in the pool next to somebody someday and say, God, look what you've done because I chose to follow your direction. The Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. Our job, seek. God's job is to save, rescue people. Our job is to rescue other people and introduce them to Jesus. Let me pray for us. God, what a cool opportunity we have in front of us. I believe that Harrisburg's best days are ahead of us. I believe that there are, of that 327,000 people, many, many more than 1,000 people that are trying to get a look at Jesus. I just pray that you give us eyes to see. You give us eyes to see the people that are up in that tree, that are waiting, trying to get a look at you. And I ask that you give us the courage to call out to them too and say, come over for dinner. Join me at church. Because what you've done for us, God, it's significant. As rescued people, our job is to seek others and rescue them. I'm just thankful for the fact that you're always open, always seeking us, never abandoning us. That promise is true for even the people that aren't here right now. All 327,000 people could come to know you if we would just notice the call out. I love you. Just for giving us the courage to make it happen.